Hello humans, time is tight these days, but I do want to make a fairly informal video comparing the HP Reverb G1, this one, to the HP Reverb G2, which arrived yesterday, and I have already spent a good half dozen to a dozen hours testing various games in. This video is not going to compare specific stats necessarily so thoroughly. There are good videos for that, and there's also good websites for that. I just want to tell you the point of view of someone who has firstly been using VR since the DK2 days, as well as someone who spends a very, very large amount of time in VR. I don't just game in VR, I work in VR. Like I bring up windows in the VR environment that show my desktop, and I bring up my working tools. I'm a programmer, so I bring up Visual Studio. I also relax in VR, like I go to some very nice locations in Space Engine, or Elite Dangerous, or No Man's Sky, for example, or Fallout, or Skyrim. And then I just find somewhere nice to sit, and then I bring up those windows and I watch YouTube, I learn, I relax, whatever it is. So VR is extremely important to me. So maybe if you are that kind of person, then this video is going to be filled with useful information for you. So it's more of a, what I think, my point of view, just a general comparison. So let's get straight onto it. When the HP Reverb G2 first arrived, I immediately was disappointed. Now, that's all going to change. I'm going to get to, as I go along with this video, I'm going to show you how my opinion did change of it, and now I'm extremely pleased with it. But I initially was disappointed, and I'll tell you why. There were a couple of things about it that I feel were oversold. Point number one is that it said that there's no mirror effect. Now, mirror effect is when the lens, the LCD display has a bunch of pixels, right? And if you look at something white, so they're all basically white, you will see like some very kind of fuzzy pattern in the pixels itself. I'll probably put a picture on the screen now to show you what that effect is like. So it said that it was going to be mirror free. I think that's a bit too extreme a statement. It definitely does still have some mirror, but the mirror is way better than the G1, and the lines are kind of like all very straight. Like you can see some banding in the pixel unevenness, but they're very straight and they're quite faint in comparison. So I was disappointed when that came up because I thought that the difference was going to be bigger. They do also claim that the end of the SDE, the screen door effect, that's kind of true and kind of not true. Now, in the G1, when you move your head, you can see the pixels. I don't know what it is. There's some kind of like bleed over as the pixels are changing as you're moving your head. And they kind of like stand out briefly. You know, they phase in and phase out as you're moving. This doesn't happen anymore. So maybe that's what they meant. If you are extremely sensitive to SDE, you might still see it. If I concentrate, I can see it, but I'm not sensitive to SDE, so I never notice it. So I thought that was a bit oversold. Lastly, I feel like it was oversold. I don't know about you. I'm trying to find people online that also got this impression. Maybe I'm just dumb and I'm the only one. But on the off chance that I'm not dumb and other people thought this, fair warning, it does say, it has been kind of sold as Steam VR. Like, they didn't say what that meant. They just said it's like, oh wow, it's a Steam VR headset. It's not. It's exactly the same as every other Windows mixed reality headset. It's made for Windows mixed reality, and it works with all Steam VR games, just like they all do. It might have some like slightly better drivers, but I don't really notice anything. I don't notice any differences between the performance of that versus that, because they are the same resolution ultimately. So I don't know what that's all about. Some people say that's implying their collaboration with Valve for the lenses, but then that's Valve, that's not Steam VR specifically. I find that weird. I don't really know how to explain that. So if you got misled, you thought that this has been built from the ground up to work with Steam VR. It's not. It's Windows mixed reality, just like the G1. So all those factors led to me being disappointed. Another disappointment was the fields of view. So again, another weird thing about me is every single headset I've had since the Vive Pro, I've modified it in some way by replacing the facial interface to get me closer to the lenses. Always it's such a way that the screens are squares, and then the lenses are little ports that you look through at the screen. And it's always been that the screen has been such a distance that you can't see, sorry, the lenses are such a distance that you can't see the whole screen. So effectively your visual image of what you see in each eye is a circle. If you push yourself up closer so that the lens lets you see more of the screen, you can see there's actually a square screen behind, and you get to actually reveal more of the scene. So I've done that with all my headsets. I was very pleased with the comfort of the G2's facial interface. It's way more comfortable than the G1, but it also keeps you even further away from the lenses than the G1, and that's kind of annoying because fields of view is fairly important for immersion. So I did come up with a modification to actually effectively get rid of this, and now it doesn't even touch your face, it just hangs. But because the lenses stick out so much, as you can see, they do really stick out, the lens now can come much closer to your eye. I've made a separate video about that, so I'm not going to get into it. So there is a solution to that, and for those of you that don't care, this is by far more comfortable than the G2's facial interface. The G2's facial interface, as you can see, is made out of some fork skin, forks rubber, forks leather type material, which basically grips your skin quite strongly. It's like got a lot of friction. And so therefore it puts a lot of it puts a lot of pressure on your skin. If like it's hanging down in weight, then it'll be tugging on your skin, whereas cloth doesn't do that. Cloth has always been the best solution for facial interfaces, and I would always recommend buying ones that have cloth if you're going to buy secondhand ones. This does come off, and they may come out, or someone may come out with one that, you know, doesn't stick out so much. Like when this is on the device, it really does stick out. Go and look up some pictures that show it from the side. You'll see that this sticks out. It's such a waste of distance between the lenses. It's good for people with glasses, but other than that, there's no need to do that. They should have really come with two. This thing as well here is really great for blocking out light if light bothers you. Clearly they feel like light must bother everyone, but it doesn't bother me. And instead this is like a real annoyance because it sits on your nose. It doesn't sit on your nose hard, but any pressure on your skin starts to hurt after a while. It just does. So I had to get rid of that quickly. I was actually like going to be cutting it until I came up with a solution. So fair warning about that. But those are basically all the complaints that I could have about it. Otherwise, it is an absolutely fantastic headset that solves a lot of problems. So problem number one is that the G1, the biggest problem I'd say with the G1 is that the lenses cannot be spaced. As you can see, they're just fixed in position. They're stuck. You can't do anything about it. This adds the ability to change the spacing between the lenses. It goes from 60 to 68. I was a bit disappointed that I only went to 60. My IPD is in theory a 61, but I still get a bit of blurriness. Whatever their calculation is, I probably would have been okay with like 59 or 58. But it's still so much better that I can't complain. I'm very happy with it. I was already fairly happy with the 63 millimeters of this. I was forced to basically sacrifice a bit of clarity, but only a bit. Obviously, I had it for a year and I loved it. But the improved clarity I get by having the sweet spot better aligned with my eyes, added to the fact that the sweet spot is better, has actually made a huge difference. Now, fair warning, if you've tried the Gear VR mod for the Vive Pro or any other headset that it's compatible with, these are not as good as that. They're just not, okay? They're Fresnel lenses. Those are not Fresnel lenses, although somehow, without being Fresnel lenses, the Gear VR mod did still solve chromatic aberration. I really don't know how. Or it minimized it so much that you didn't notice it. And added basically the whole lens as just one big sweet spot. These are not the same. The sweet spot is way bigger than here, but it takes a while to notice. You don't even notice its improvement until you do certain things that were once blurry and realize they're no longer blurry. That's the only way I can describe it. It doesn't jump out you when you first put it on and go, wow, amazing sweet spot. It's still blurry to the sides. If you look in your peripheral vision, you will see blur at the edges of the screens. It's less, but it's still there. So they're not completely perfect lenses, although I do admit they are way better. Getting on to the improvements with the screens, so they were advertised as brighter. I wouldn't say they're brighter, but they're definitely more vivid in terms of their colors. Like the first thing I noticed when I put it on was the colors they just look different. They're so much more intense, and that's great. I highly, highly praise that. The other improvement is the cameras. So I can't really be a good guide to you if you're one of these people that finds the tracking to be super important. Like you get sick if it's even slightly off, because I don't have that problem myself. So I've never had a problem with the G1's tracking. It does have like bugginess, like it will sometimes like wobble around a bit while it's trying to like remember where it's supposed to be. That doesn't make me sick, so it doesn't bother me, and it happens quite rarely. But the problem that I did have with it was that it would lose. It's like very sensitive. Like it knows what that direction looks like, my computer and my screens. If I try and turn around and move around the room too much, it can quite easily forget where it is, and then you lose all tracking and it sucks. This problem has now gone away. I have this problem where I have a very comfortable chair that I prefer to game in. It's got my butt kicker built in. It's a lazy boy. It's over there. It faces the other way. That's the only really way I can make it work in this room. And the G1, whenever I would get up out of my chair and turn around and go and sit there, it would very frequently lose tracking. It was very difficult to keep it in sync. If I were to just like for 1 second take off the headset and put it back on, it'd be gone. Wouldn't come back. Very frustrating. I'd have to get up, get all uncomfortable, you know, take off my headset, untangle my feet from the cable and come and like face this direction again so it could come back into sync. And it was a bit of a nightmare. It really put me off. G2 doesn't have that problem at all. It knows where it is at all times. It learns your room really quickly. It works in pitch black. Last night I was playing in complete darkness. I had my lamp off, and it was a 4-hour gaming session. I started off by standing, and then I sat down in my chair, and then I stood again. Then I turned around, and I sat down in that lazy boy over there. And the entire time, it never once lost tracking. I put the headset down, and I put it back on. It was just perfect. The only thing that it hasn't quite got is the difference of your room between night and day. I'm sure it will learn it eventually. So that's not like going to be a permanent problem. I think it will eventually learn my room, but I will give advice to people coming to mixed reality, non-base station tracking. If it ever does have to, you put it on and instead of immediately recognizing a room, it asks you to go through the process of looking left, right, up and down again. Immediately, like get past that and then go and delete your environment data and start again, because you don't want it to have two files on its system, like for your room. You want it to be the same file. You want it to have the same idea of what your room is, not two separate ones in different lighting, because then it will get really confused. It'll start bouncing around. It'll get very confused. So that's my recommendation to you. Otherwise, it's a very comfortable headset. The audio is incredible. The microphone works really well. I haven't actually tried looking through these yet. So you can read online to see what you think about those. Because I play with the Valve Index controllers, it doesn't have an inbuilt gesture for that, so I'm not going to be really using it, unfortunately, unless they come up with a solution to that. But yeah, it's an absolutely incredible headset. Yes, another problem solved is this cable is a lot more natural. It's not tight at all. It's not heavy at all. I didn't notice any cable issues tugging. This one, the cable is stiff and thick and heavy. So you're constantly, every time you turn your head, you get like a resistance and you have to readjust the cable. That's all solved with this. It's only one cable now because these headphones are so good, you might as well leave them in. Anything else I can say? Not really. So the added clarity, specifically that I described before about the lenses to do with the fact that the spacing can be changed and the sweet spot improvement, has solved another important problem for me with VR. As I said at the beginning of the video, I like to spend loads of time in VR, not just gaming, but working and all that. With this, I didn't quite realize how bad it was. The blurriness caused by the lack of spacing and the small sweet spot meant that I was having to make my, like for example, if I'm programming and I've got Visual Studio open, I have to make the window representing that screen really big. So that hurts my neck because in order to see my whole screen, I'm constantly looking around at my screen, up, down, left, right. And also, yeah, it just hurts the eye. It's blurry. It's like a bit shiny around, like, you know, when there's contrast. So you've got like a really dark background and then like bright white letters on top. Then there'll be like a glare. So this is all gone with that because the blurriness is so much better. I can see the screens. I can keep the screen much smaller. The font smaller as well. All in one. It's a huge difference. So that's going to really make a big difference to my life. I've been able to come up with a mod, as I said, that makes sure that this doesn't touch your face at all. It's nice and stiff, so it stays in position. There's a bit of wobble, and now light gets in, so those are some downsides to it. But otherwise, for me, because I normally play in the dark anyway, and I'm going to probably come up with some solutions to blocking out the light as well, I'm now going to be able to wear this without pain. Completely without pain, just gone. No soreness, no pressure, nothing. So I'm just over the moon about this headset. It's true that the resolution hasn't been increased, but to be honest, the resolution was already good enough. If you've got one of the Ampere graphics cards, the 3000 series graphics cards, or the equivalent AMDs that just came out, you're already playing your games in towards, if not upwards of, 8K super sampling. Now, the super sampling is even more important than the real resolution, because the real resolution is, in some ways, it acts like a window looking behind at the real image that's behind the window, if you know what I mean. You have to think quite abstractly to understand what I'm saying. The gaming visuals that are super sampled and 8K really shine through the real pixels. The aliasing is gone. As you move your head, the pixels are constantly like moving around the real image, if you know what I mean. So you see the 8K-ness of the image. So the resolution's good enough. And with the graphics cards, the super sampling is good enough. So we're basically sitting in a position where we've solved almost all VR-related problems. It would be nice, obviously, if the next iteration of VR headsets were more comfortable, perhaps less heavy, like maybe no weight at all. They could be built into some kind of glasses or lenses, or maybe that's a few generations off. But we just basically need to improve comfort, and we need to improve resolution, and hopefully improve FOV as well, because FOV is quite important. Although not as important as you'd think. I did try the Pimax, the one that's got 200 degrees of field of view, and it did not strike me at all. I've got another video about that. It wasn't like the answer to all problems. It didn't have one of those moments where like, wow, I can't believe I've been missing this all along. Like, I didn't even notice it, and I did try it for a while. So yeah, resolution, so FOV is not as important as you think, although I will admit it's important and we could definitely do better. The most important thing right now is to keep improving the resolution, the clarity of the lenses, the sweet spot, and the weight of the device. I've probably left a few things out because I tend to. Hopefully this has been useful to some people, this video. And if you've got any questions, I do tend to look at the comments and answer them, so feel free to ask. And hopefully I haven't missold this in any way. If I have, please forgive me if you're not making a purchase and not liking it. Accept my apologies now. But otherwise, I hope this has been of use to people, and I strongly recommend getting it. It's nice and cheap as well. It's only like, I don't know what it is now because the price has gone up. It's like upwards of £500-600 or dollars or whatever your equivalent currency is. So good luck, everyone. I hope you find your escapist perfect setup so you can escape into your fantasy worlds and achieve all your dreams in the context of gaming and everything else virtual. All right, Dr. Kai signing off. So long, humans. To the heavens to see what secrets they hold. Join me as I sail amongst the stars.